Congress bans the Bible for anti-Semitism. Wait, is that true? An OnlyFans creator claims she was paid to make propaganda, and Biden attempts stand-up, as opposed to his usual hobby, fall down. Either way, comedy ensues. Then more on this week's America Uncovered headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. Let's start off with something nice and light. You and everyone you know is going to die, but you never know when. Until now. Life2Vec is a calculator that uses ChatGPT technology to predict when you'll die, and it's been described as frighteningly accurate. I'm not sure if this calculator factors in acts of God, though, like the dozens of tornadoes that struck Oklahoma this week, killing at least 4, or acts of the devil, like KFC's Double Down sandwich. Life2Vec is not yet available to the public, but its creators are issuing a warning about counterfeit sites that could steal your information and infect your devices with malware. But I mean, really, the whole idea of a death calculator is silly. Because if you're telling people your social security number in exchange for them letting you know when you're going to kick the bucket, then congrats, you've already proved Darwin wrong and made it past your expiration date. That last story was a bit existential. Let's talk about something that'll lighten the mood. Abortion. The Arizona state legislature passed a repeal of a restrictive abortion ban that was on the books since 1864, after the state Supreme Court recently decided it was enforceable. The repeal of the law will take effect 90 days after the end of the legislative session, which must end by June 30th. However, the law that is being repealed will take effect on June 27th, so unless something is done to implement the repeal sooner, there will be months where the ban is in place. Hopefully they'll do away with it sooner, because a lot of Americans aren't comfortable waiting that many weeks before deciding to terminate something. Man, after those heavy topics, I could use an America Uncovered mental health break. Look at those cute little scamps frolicking around. Puppies are the best. I'm in a much better mood now. On to our next story. In her upcoming new book, The Guardian reveals that South Dakota governor and Donald Trump vice president contender Kristi Noam details killing her 14-month-old puppy for having an aggressive personality. Well, I guess this catapults her into the upper echelons of inspiring political quotes. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. Ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Hey guys, I shot a puppy this one time. There are some pieces of context needed in this story. Noam lives on a ranch, and this story took place 20 years ago. She says she made the decision after the dog got loose and killed her neighbor's chickens, and that it was so aggressive it posed a danger to her children. Noam goes on to say that after killing the dog, she also, that same day, killed an out-of-control, uncastrated goat. And perhaps the most important piece of context needed in the story, she absolutely didn't have to include this in her book. She seems herself to agree, summing up the story by saying, I guess if I were a better politician, I wouldn't tell the story here. You think? That's like being on a first date and saying, I know you didn't ask, but I think the Star Wars sequels are better than the originals. It just makes you sound like a psychopath. Why are you telling on yourself? Did she get high ahead of the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration reclassifying marijuana, their biggest policy change in over 50 years? As you can imagine, killing a puppy has been met with a teeny tiny bit of backlash. Noam defends herself, saying, whether running the ranch or in politics, I have never passed on my responsibilities to anyone else to handle, even if it's hard and painful. I followed the law and was being a responsible parent, dog owner, and neighbor. Noam has also made it clear she didn't break any law by killing the dog. Wait, she thinks that's what everyone has a problem with? She didn't commit a misdemeanor blasting the puppy in the face? Whew! For a second I was afraid this was a sad story. My question is, why tell the story at all? No one asked. Again, why are you telling on yourself? Who's she trying to impress? The cat demographic? I can tell you who's not impressed, Donald Trump. Remember how I said she was a contender to be Donald Trump's vice presidential pick? The operative word there is was. According to the New York Post, sources close to Donald Trump say she has no shot of being his vice presidential pick now. To which Noam replied, speaking of shots, have you heard the one about me shooting my puppy and goat? Speaking of potential Trump VP picks, Ron DeSantis. Trump took a break from his hush money case, where he was fined $9,000 for violating a gag order 9 times and also threatened with jail time if he does it again, to meet with his former GOP presidential primary rival privately in Miami in an attempt to bury the hatchet. To which Kristi Noam responded, "I'll bury a hatchet in my dog." I might be beating a dead horse at this point, to which Noam responded, "I've killed horses too." I'm not joking, she actually talked about killing horses too. I get life on a ranch is different than what New York City slickers like me are used to, but seriously, ladies, stop telling on yourself. And after the break, this OnlyFans model was asked to do what? Welcome back. TikTok star and OnlyFans creator Farah Khalidi claims she was paid to spread political propaganda for the Biden administration. While still gross, that's probably the most hygienic request ever made to someone with an OnlyFans account.
The funny thing is they're like, do not disclose this is an ad because, they're like, technically it's not a product, so you don't have to disclose it's an ad. Because I think they just wanted like some edgy girl of color to just tell people, like when they nominated like Ketanji Brown Jackson, they're like, can you say like as a person of color, that you feel reflected? And it's like a white woman emailing this to me.
Whoa. They objectified her because of the color of her skin? Well, that's disgraceful. This is OnlyFans. You objectify her for the rest of her body as well, you degenerate. Khalidi did clarify that it wasn't the Biden administration itself that reached out to her.
So the Biden administration sees, here's this young,
yeah, I mean, they use like a conduit. It's not like, you know what I mean? It's not Biden, but it's like a third party. You know what I mean? It's like a media company that's doing it on his behalf. I'm not blaming him for this.
Yeah.
I have so many questions. One, why are they trying to use hot women to push political messaging? Has a guy ever been all horned up and thought, we do need to fix our infrastructure? Also, is this going to be how political messages are spread in the future? We're going to see ads for sexy singles in your area that want to make America great again? And last but not least, what kind of a media company would throw journalistic integrity out the window and show such flagrant favoritism? This is why no one trusts the news anymore. You can bet we'd never do that here at America Uncovered. And you know who else wouldn't do it? America Uncovered's officially endorsed presidential candidate, Chris Christie. He'd never shoot a puppy. I can't believe that's something we have to clarify about candidates now. Speaking of presidential candidates and everyone's nightmares, California Governor Gavin Newsom announced California would receive its own $1 coin, set to be issued in 2026, and he asked for help from the public to design it. And as you can imagine, the responses were filled with inspiring, captivating, noteworthy, no, I'm just kidding. They were filled with AI art showing the California coin depicting homeless encampments. I don't think it's fair to pile on California for their homeless problem when there are so many other California problems that deserve to be on a coin. Pro-Palestinian protests continue across America. For a deep dive into that and how some of these protesters are confused and being manipulated, check out this video we did earlier in the week. The protests at Columbia University escalated, with protesters occupying and barricading themselves in the Hamilton Hall building on campus. It got to the point where Columbia said it had no choice but to call the police to clear them out. Dozens of arrests were made at Columbia, and over 300 arrests have been made at New York colleges as well. Taking property that doesn't belong to them and refusing to leave? Dirty colonizers. In response to these protests, the White House overwhelmingly passed the Antisemitism Awareness Act, freaking out many who think this bill criminalizes those who criticize Israel. But does it? Looks like it's time for another one of my favorite segments. Wait, is that true? No. In other news, a masked man ate 700 cheese balls in front of a throng of cheering fans in New York City.
After almost a half hour, the now legendary cheeseball man finally accomplished his quest.
Oh, I just realized I should probably explain the concerns over that whole anti-Semitism bill, huh? Okay. Matt Walsh, who works for the Daily Wire, said on X that the vast majority of Republicans just voted for a bill to criminalize criticism of the Israeli government. If the bill passes, you will be guilty of hate speech if you apply double standards to the government of Israel or accuse it of genocide. Which is not true. The bill does not criminalize criticism of the Israeli government or say anything whatsoever about hate speech. What the bill actually does is require the Department of Education to consider the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's working definition of anti-Semitism when determining if there has been a violation of Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Title VI prohibits discrimination against people based on race, color, or national origin. It applies to federally funded programs in schools. So people are freaking out about this bill because they think the IHRA's definition of anti-Semitism is too broad. But the DOE is already using this definition of anti-Semitism since 2018. Plus, the Trump administration passed an executive order saying the same thing as this bill in 2019. So basically, this bill is Congress saying, we're helping. So why do so many people think this bill means you can't criticize Israel? Well, the definition of anti-Semitism the IHRA uses is short and pretty generic. The most important part is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. But the IHRA doesn't just give a definition, it gives examples of manifestations of anti-Semitism, and this is the part people are freaking out over. For example, making allegations about Jews as such or the power of Jews as a collective, such as the myth of Jews controlling the media, economy, government, or other societal institutions. So under this act, if a student says that Jews control the media and the university doesn't crack down on them accordingly, could the DOE potentially say that the university is violating Title VI and remove their funding? Maybe. There would first have to be an investigation into whether that would actually qualify as discrimination. And if it was just a student saying Jews control the media without any other threats or actions, that would fall under the First Amendment's free speech protections, which this bill does not change. So for the most part, people are really exaggerating the concerns about this bill. Just criticizing Israel is not anti-Semitic. It literally says that in the definition of anti-Semitism. So students at campus protests can go ahead and accuse Israel of genocide. But we are now in a place in society where some people want to claim that speech is violence. And if that becomes widely accepted in the future, it is possible that universities and the US government could overstep and end up violating people's freedom of speech in the name of fighting anti-Semitism, like the Biden administration did with social media in the name of fighting disinformation. Disinformation like, you shouldn't eat 700 cheese balls. These are the stories that really matter. But the Israel Hamas War isn't the only thing American students are protesting. 5 girls from Lincoln Middle School in West Virginia protested the inclusion of a transgender athlete in a shot put event by refusing to participate. These girls were banned from future events, which is just silly. On these girls' parts, that is. They should have said they were protesting because the transgender athlete is pro-Israel. Then instead of banning them, the school would have let them have a sleepover. It looks like the Israel-Hamas conflict won't be ending anytime soon, which is depressing. Man, I could sure use a good laugh to brighten my spirits. And who better to provide it than world-renowned comedian Joe Biden? Biden cracked jokes at the annual White House Correspondents' Dinner, which had pro-Palestinian protesters demonstrating outside, and he took aim at his past and future presidential opponent, Donald Trump.
Age is the only thing we have in common. My vice president actually endorses me.
Yep, Kamala Harris is looking forward to serving another term with Joe Biden, almost as much as she's looking forward to that death calculator being made available to the public. Can it also predict when my 81-year-old boss will kick the bucket and make all my dreams come true? America Uncovered wouldn't exist without your support. Click that orange button to support us on Patreon. All it takes is $1 an episode, and you can set a monthly limit. And here's a video I want to show you. It's from my new gaming channel, where I hide controversial takes on news and politics in gaming. Now, there's been some pretty big controversy about this one. Click here and let me know what you think. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. See you next time.